True crime stories, once solved, usually hold very few mysteries, as most criminals leave evidence at the scene and are caught shortly afterwards. But some cases lead to unexpected endings well after being solved. These are the creepiest, strange but true stories that investigators have ever encountered during their careers in law enforcement. Number 5. The true crime story involving 22-year-old Stefan Breitweiser began in 1995 when he was visiting a medieval castle in Switzerland. Stefan was traveling through Europe with his girlfriend Anne Catherine, and while they were touring an art gallery, a particular painting caught his eye. The small portrait of a woman was created by an 18th century German artist, and Stefan decided that he had to walk away with it. The aspiring art thief told his girlfriend to keep watch while he removed the nails from the painting's frame. He then placed it under his jacket and simply walked out of the building, completing his first art heist. Over the next few years, he would use similar methods for art robberies across more than 170 museums, most of which didn't have the best security. The most valuable art heist was valued at around $5.5 million. Stefan eventually amassed a huge private collection worth $1.4 billion. He never attempted to sell any of the pieces, as he had only burgled them to keep for himself. Some of the other pieces he pinched included rare coins, jewelry, and 59 more paintings. He continued to leave a string of strange unsolved cases until November of 2001. Stefan's true crime career came to an end when he stole a bugle from a museum in Switzerland. After successfully obtaining the bugle dated to the 1300s, he returned to the museum to get rid of any fingerprints that he may have left behind, and he was caught at the scene of the crime. On the 7th of January 2007, he was sentenced to 3 years, and many art heist cases were solved, but investigators didn't expect what happened next. Upon finding out that her son would be going to jail, Stefan's scared mother decided to get rid of any evidence and burned many of the paintings, threw tapestries in the woods, and tossed priceless coins into a canal along with the stolen jewelry. Stefan's mother also received a 3-year sentence, but she was released after serving just 18 months. Stefan was released after 287 months, but he received another 3-year sentence after 30 more stolen items were found during a raid of his house, bringing the true crime story to a close. Number 4. In 1985, a scary true crime story unfolded in North Shore, Texas, when 50-year-old construction worker Roy McCaleb met his fate at the end of a barrel in his own bedroom. When his wife Carolyn Sue Crizzen Wilson was questioned, she stated that a barefoot homeless man had entered their house through an unlocked door before he descended upon her, grabbed their home protection that she kept under her pillow, and used it on Roy while he slept. Adding to the scary mystery, in her story she said that the same man had come at her 10 days earlier, and that she hadn't reported the incident to police as her husband was recovering from heart surgery, and she feared that the news may cause a setback in his recovery. She added that when the man tried to flee, he accidentally ran into her and dropped what was in his hand. She managed to pick it up and aimed twice, missing him each time. Police immediately started an investigation, but for the next 23 years, the case remained strangely unsolved. The man who had broken into the house was never identified, and no evidence was found at the crime scene that could lead investigators in the right direction. That is, until 2008, when the cold case files were reopened in hopes that the true crime mystery could finally be solved. When Carolyn was interviewed this time, she made a full confession to criminal detectives, stating that she was the one who had done this to her husband, Roy. But Carolyn was in the beginning stages of dementia, and she had no true memory of the crime, and what was close to being a solved mystery was instead thrown out of court. For the following 5 years, court appeals were filed to reopen the cold case files, and in 2013, Carolyn, who was now 71 years old, was finally found guilty. However, she was sentenced to serve only 6 months in a county facility. Roy's daughter, Pam Nally, stated that she was glad the scary story had a strange but true ending, unexpected as it may have been, but she added Carolyn had pretty much gotten away with a very real and heinous crime, and that she would have preferred if Carolyn spent the rest of her life behind bars. Number 3. In 1980, 71-year-old Margaret Ann Paul served as a Sister of Mercy at Mercy Hospital in Toledo, Ohio, where she was the caretaker of the chapel. But on the 5th of April of that year, she would become the focus of a true crime story that went cold, only to become a solved case 26 years later. Margaret's real-life horror story started as a normal day. Her alarm went off at 5 a.m., and by 6:15, she had made her way to the dining room where she readied cleaning cloths and incense for the chapel pews. She had breakfast at 6:20, after which she told a cafeteria worker that she was heading to St. Joseph's Chapel to prepare for Easter weekend services. Just after 8 a.m., another nun entered the chapel and discovered Margaret on the floor. She had succumbed to a blade, and when investigators arrived at the crime scene, they found a letter opener and a cloth that appeared to have DNA evidence on it. Father Gerald Robinson was questioned about the mystery 2 weeks later, but during the interview, an official entered the room and ushered Robinson out of the police station. Despite the best efforts of investigators, no further evidence was found, and the strange but true crime case went cold. By 2003, the unsolved mystery had a new clue. Investigators received an anonymous letter from a woman who called herself Survivor Doe, in which she claimed that Robinson was to be considered a suspect after all. The woman had filed a civil lawsuit against Robinson, but the case was dismissed in 2011. These accusations were added to the cold case files, and when forensic tests were done on the letter opener that was found, the results determined the letter opener was the same instrument used on Margaret during her final moments. Additionally, 3 witnesses came forward to say it was true that Robinson was in the vicinity of the chapel at the time that the crime was committed. Other testimonies agreed that Robinson had disliked Margaret since she nitpicked over small details, such as the fact that he would leave the chapel in a mess after changing for Mass. They had one final argument on Good Friday of 1980, when Margaret criticized the priest for cutting the usually lengthy Mass short, and in an unexpected ending, the next day she went missing until she was found on the floor. The case was solved, and Robinson was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison. However, in his version of events, the true story is that he's innocent of all crimes. Number 2. On the 26th of November, 1960, 19-year-old Larry Payton and his girlfriend, 19-year-old Beverly Allen, were planning to do some shopping at the Lloyd Center in Portland, Oregon. But their scary stories would become part of a true crime investigation that would last for 7 long years before their cases were solved. Beverly had just finished spending Thanksgiving Day with her parents in Port Townsend, Washington, after which she drove to Portland to meet up with Larry for the rest of the weekend. On the 26th, the couple left for Lloyd Center at around 9 p.m., but they inexplicably disappeared. The following evening, Larry's missing Ford coupe was found in Forest Park with Larry inside. He had been done in with a blade, and mud was found on his clothes, suggesting that he had been outside the vehicle at some point. Beverly, however, was still a missing person, and FBI files show a blade was found on Larry's car hood, along with a small hole found in the windshield. It would later be determined that the hole was caused by a round that was let loose from inside the car. No small arms were ever recovered. However, Larry's car keys were found in the nearby bushes. Unfortunately, Beverly's mysterious disappearance has a creepy and unexpected ending. Her missing person case was solved when she was found in a forest ravine on the 9th of January, 1961, approximately 30 miles west of Portland. She was not alive when she was found, with restrained wrists and plastic sheeting with red stains nearby. 2 abandoned cars were found near her body, and their owners were questioned, but they quickly were ruled out as suspects, and the scary true story would remain unsolved until 1966, when investigators received a note from a mysterious woman called Nikki Essex. In the letter, she described details that were unknown to the public, such as the blade that was left on the hood of the car. In a strange but true twist, she added that 2 brothers, Edward and Carl Jorgensen, were responsible for the unsolved crime, and into the FBI files this information went. Thanks to these leads, Edward was eventually arrested at his house, and Carl was apprehended at a shoe store where he was employed. They stood trial in November of 1968, and Nikki testified that she'd been with the two brothers and a man named Robert Brahm when they happened upon Larry and Beverly, but she left before their lives were ended. The unsolved case was finally solved when Carl was acquitted of the crime, while Edward and Brahm were each sentenced to life plus 25 years. Number 1. The strange but true story behind the mysterious disappearance of Fred Butner, an attorney in Key West, Florida, seemed like an easily solved case. But this true crime mystery would contain an unexpected ending that's truly creepy. Fred briefly went missing until he was found no longer alive at a hotel. A preliminary crime scene investigation suggested that he had been pushed from the rooftop lounge called The Top. True crime detectives soon found that Fred's pockets still contained his money, ruling out robbery as a motive, but also found on his person was an extortion note that led them to believe that the mystery would be solved quickly. The letter, which was signed by Fred's former secretary, Susan Hanna, stated that she knew about his shady business dealings and that she would report him to the Florida Bar Association if he didn't pay for her silence. It also ordered him to meet her at the Top on October 7th, the day he met his demise. Adding to the evidence was a tape recorder that was found beside Fred. When it was played back, investigators heard Fred greeting someone, though the other person's voice is never heard. In the recording, he assures the unknown person that he will pay as asked, after which he could be heard telling them to stop what they were doing. This is followed by the sound of rushing air and a thud as he fell to the concrete. Soon it was discovered that Fred's law practice was in trouble, in part thanks to Hannah. She had written to the Florida Bar stating the following as her version of the true story. Quote, "I'm quitting the office of Fred Butner today because of his persistence in doing unethical and illegal acts. He has falsified records, falsified documents, coerced clients, and fraudulently taken trust funds." Investigators realized that since Hannah had reported Fred to the bar months before he went missing, she would have nothing to gain from extortion, and that it would be foolish to send extortion notes that had been signed by the blackmailer. The unsolved case came to a creepy ending when it was finally found that Fred had taken his own life after being implicated by Hannah. As a last act of revenge, he printed the extortion note and pretended to have a conversation, which is what was caught on the tape recorder. Hannah hadn't had contact with Fred in weeks, and she described the scenario as totally ridiculous. With her innocence proven, the puzzling mystery was solved. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.